this next week I'm gonna try to get the pre-rolls and in-rolls, and then we're just gonna like switch back to fucking XSplit or whatever.
I need a different fucking. Oh god, why did I just search that? No, don't do
Yeah.
that.
Why'd you just do that?
Nope, nope, nope. I'm just trying to get any fucking image up there, so I can get rid of this fucking thing. Oh shit. Well, give it about 15 seconds.
Oh God.
So it stopped giving me like 12 fucking Twitch. There we go. Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna pay for that one in a second. Don't worry about it. I'll just have to make sure that's cut out of the.
Oh God. Oh my
Oh
God.
shit. All right. Okay. Give me half a second here. Give me. Fuck. It's just first word that came to my head, man. Good times. Good times at Fairmont High. You shut up right now. Don't stop. Yeah, gotcha. Okay, so we can actually get rid of you. If I minimize you. Why do you pop up on that screen? Suck fat garbage. I don't know, the letter B. Look, I had a long day, okay? I really didn't actually. This has probably been the best day.
Don't let him lie to you at all.
Week and a half.
Wow.
All right.
Wait, so
Oh man.
Peter, why do you like constantly want to make me louder?
Why?
I don't.
Why?
I give up on everything. Wait, is the video starting?
No, because it won't play sound.
Oh my God.
Bro. I've got sound. If you're calling me from unavailable and you're watching my stream, go fuck yourself. All right. Welcome to the Sacrament podcast.
Oh, we're talking? My bad. Welcome.
No, we're not.
No.
Now we're talking. So that's.
I give up on all of this.
Oh man. God, what the hell? All
We're
right.
good at this as usual.
Oh shit. All right. So welcome to the Sacrament podcast. This is always fun and entertaining just to get started. So that's. I don't even have my notes. What did we talk about last time? Whether or not experience was required, right?
Yeah, that.
Or if it was a major selling point or blah. I think it's a major selling point. I just think it's a misinformed selling point is the problem. But, we are a political country driven by lies and fantasies instead of reality. So,
and bacon.
Marketing ho! That's not going to work like that. We'll do something like that. All right. So, I'll just have to sit back and touch. I feel pink.
You look pink.
And that is the edited intro. I know. I don't know why.
That's right. We'll get this figured out maybe next year.
It's so bright.
Because you're a ginger.
Close or something? I don't know, man.
Oh, great. Now the army is arriving.
I don't know. We'll go with that. Anyway. So, this week, we're actually going to lead with a conversation that we've had in-house for
a while.
About three or 4 months now. It's kind of been a bit of an argumentative point. And I understand their side of it. And when I say they, I mean this was an argument when when Wicked was over here arguing with us and helping us do design docs. So, but it plays into the entirety of the game and the evolution of the game itself and how we perceive the game and what we're utilizing. And the question is, as players, as developers, as the overall industry, with weapons not being used only to cause damage to things, does it make sense to still utilize the word attack or damage on a weapon when identifying that? Or is it something that's best left to change to the word efficiency? So, do you mind changing attack to efficiency on weapons? Initially, if you consider nothing else other than thinking of a dagger stabbing somebody in the back, the answer is always going to be it should stay attack or damage or whatever. Those two words are really interchangeable.
I said they're the same thing at that point.
Right. The issue is that it's never just been about a dagger. It's never just been about a dagger. EQ1 even utilized this. The cleric had a set amount of power. There was power inherent to the weapon that they wielded. It's the only reason they upgraded their weapon because, let's face it, 99.9% of the times the clerics weren't doing damage with their weapons. Wizards, all the nukes in the world, they still had to have weapons with a lot of damage on it. They wound up putting focuses on these types of weapons that would, increase nuke damage or increase damage over time for certain spell types or pet damage and stuff like that. But they wound up having to make adjustments. Right. Everything's calculated over to damage. But just as often as a rogue backstabbing, somebody's holding a weapon that has damage on it that's not being used. So, with abilities being where damage comes from nowadays, is it really that crazy, that insane to assume that a weapon itself does not deal the damage, but the player deals the damage? That the damage should be associated to the ability as opposed to the weapon. And the weapon can have the word efficiency in place that will allow you to understand how that weapon's going to enhance you as you hold it. Because in our game, you're not isolated to a single weapon type. You can pick up any weapon and use it. But what the fuck is a cleric going to do with a dagger with damage on it?
I said you still need, and the efficiency will still hold the purpose of, you have a rusty metal spoon, or, to use as a dagger, and then you have, a fucking steel blade or something. Like, its efficiency is going to be higher because it's not going to break when you stab someone with it on the same hand. Like, it's still going to, I don't know. People are going to hate the word, but it holds its purpose better.
I think initially, you're right. A lot of people are going to dislike it. Initially, I don't really like it, honestly. But we can't sit here and wonder what we do and don't like. I don't like PvP either. We're still putting PvP in this motherfucking game. The question really comes to, does it still make sense to use an archaic term that does not apply to everybody touching it? Are we really going to fill up the weapon with a whole bunch of different terms just so that everybody touching it gets to utilize the weapon? I mean, a bard picking up a staff, let's say, they're not utilizing the staff to attack anybody. Should the staff have damage on it? The staff in the hands of a wizard is never going to physically connect with a target. It's just not. The staff is going to channel properties, the magical properties, or the essence of what the wizard's doing through the staff. See, I'm all greens now. I don't know what that was about.
Yeah, I don't know. That was weird. But, continue. You lost it, didn't you?
No.
I said, well, Lust, to answer your question, isn't that what people do now?
Is what people do now? Sorry.
What are you getting new weapons for then? Just the stat boost. Why do people get weapons and gear now for the stat boost? The switching to an efficiency rating will mean you'll still actually be more. You'll have higher efficiency with different weapons because different weapons are better for different jobs. They're not stat sticks. This actually gets rid of the stat stick problem that is currently what everything is used for. Is just numbers. Like you just said, why would a wizard pick up? Why would you have attack stats and stuff on a staff when you're not attacking people with it? But if, like you said, the staff you pick up has higher focus rating and it has higher efficiency for channeling mana through and stuff and such and so on, that makes more sense because that's what the weapon is being used for. Whereas a dagger would be more efficient at stabbing, cutting, for swords and hacking for axes, blunt damage. It'd be more efficient at it. Whereas instead it'd go attack +5 is what it says now. Like people can argue that that's what you're getting gear for different reasons, but they're all just stat sticks. Half of them they're not even used sticks; they just sit on your back.
So within Sacrament, within our game, the way that the gear works is the major thing you're really getting from tier to tier is the availability for more slots that you can put sockets in, right? So, and these sockets will enhance your gameplay as you're utilizing abilities and whatnot. This socket specifically speaks directly to, sorry, real ugly in your face for a second. The sockets really speak to how you're going to play your class. So you get to build these sockets based on how you're going to play. Even the efficiency in our game, you're not seeing major numbers, right? So we're not pandering to those who want to see thousands and thousands and thousands of DPS. It's not how this game's focused. We're not trying to pull an Elder Scrolls where we're going to hide numbers from you or anything crazy like that. But the focus is skill-based over everything. The next tier, to keep all tiers relevant, Wicked has created a logarithm that has made all the numbers can be the exact same across all the tiers. The sockets increase, so the number value for the sockets increase, and your efficiency rating based on the tier level of that item, or your skill level with that item, based on the tier level of the item, will allow that efficiency number to do more. So as you become more proficient as a character, increase your skill levels, the efficiency actually produces more. So let's say it's 10 all across the board, right? 10 efficiency rating for 1,000 skill points is going to be, 10,000 efficiency or whatever the case may be, whatever the math comes out to be. We'll do generic math just so we all understand. But let's say you're tier 20 and you pick up tier 20 weapon, and now that will allow you to go up to 2,000 points. If we're saying that we get 100 skills per level, then you're talking about the same 10 efficiency, but now for 2,000 proficiency can give you a lot more out of it. So we don't have to boost up the numbers on these items like most games do because of this.
The weapon isn't the leveling system. The better you are at doing things in the world based on your skill as a player and your skills as that you've learned, you become better at using an item, so you'll get more out of it. It's even real world equatable. Like when you get better at something, you tend to be able to do it faster, stronger. Like it's the same thought process.
Less effort to get the same means out of it. There are things on these items.
Like they'll actually
stats, stuff like that, that will adjust, but these proficiency numbers essentially should remain really close to identical throughout all the tiers. And this is so that we can do things like create 100 tiers or 200 tiers at some point in time and not have such a difference in numbers that you can't ever go back and enjoy tier 5. We don't ever want that to happen. We want the whole world not just to grow and become less relevant, but to grow and stay relevant. And it's actually a logarithm Wicked spent quite some time nerding over, so we love it.
Does it mean that the efficiency is for better hit?
Does it mean that the efficiency is for better hit on the mob or what? So the efficiency will be based on what you're doing with it, right? Okay, let's go with we'll just go with a sword, a one-hand sword, okay? As a one-hand sword, I pick up a one-hand sword as a bard, and I'm doing my bard spells. I know that the most efficiency for me would be to pick up an instrument type, right? This is obvious. But I want to wield a sword because I'm feeling like I want to wield a sword. And still I'm a bard. My class doesn't change. So the way I go about my casting is unique to my class. So I'm singing songs at shit, and the sword is providing a minor efficiency boost because it's not an instrument. I'm still channeling through it, but as a bard, I would channel through the weapons that I'm using in order to project
Do your spells.
my natural proficiency, right? So I'm getting more efficiency out of this. This becomes more of like a charm item for me. A rogue, a paladin picks up a sword and he smacks enemies, melee smacks enemies with it. And that converts over to raw damage for him. Just like mine converts over to a
charm scaling.
Charms, right. Charms, debuffs, mezzes, stuff like that. That would be raw damage for him, but melee damage. A wizard picks up the sword. Let's say the player wants to get into that, spell casting, sword wizard kind of thing.
Sort of deal.
They would start channeling their spells through the sword. Now, is the most efficient for a wizard and a bard to use a sword? No, not necessarily. They would want to go with something that better suits their style, but at the same time, we're not going to
say you can't use it
in the face and tell them that they absolutely can't. Because if they want to and they can pull it off, then they can. So we're talking about, maybe a 20% difference or something like that. I don't know what the exact numbers will wind up being. There's a lot of testing that needs to be done internally before we can even talk about that.
Efficiency is going to be used as it's a measure of everything based on how good you are with the item. It's not a specific stat to the item. It's what's decided between you holding the item.
Buffs, debuffs. We're even talking about threat, okay? And threat is not inherently based off damage. Threat is a psychological factor in this game. If you're an avoidance tank and you're making mobs miss a lot, the efficiency at which you can build that threat is going to be based on the weapons you're utilizing. There's a whole bunch to it. So if a cleric decides they want to pick up a sword and start healing using the sword to push their energy through, then they're going to be able to do that. If they pick up a jab ability and they actually jab with the sword, that's fine. It's not their role, so they're going to take a hit in what they can actually do with that ability itself. So their class proficiency is going to change the way that the ability works, plus any efficiency loss on the weapon is going to change the way that ability works. But that sword can be used for all spells and abilities, not just damage spells and abilities.
It's to stop seeing items that say attack power, spell power pretty much on it, because then that means a mage can never use that sword that says attack power, even though its other affixes on it is what something they'd like, but since it doesn't have spell power in it, they can no longer use it. Switching to an efficiency for the value of what it does, not the stats on the item, allows it so anyone can use anything, but you're not going to be good with everything. I don't know how else to explain, because
when it comes to the weapons themselves, Wicked was actually putting together a worksheet that the weapons damage is actually going to be based on the material type used for what type of weapons being created, and that'll be actually an internal number that players will never see, that they'll take part in, and they'll mess around in, and they'll see minor changes. But again, we're talking about building a game based on 100 DPS, 200 DPS being average numbers, not 3,000 or 30,000 DPS being your average DPS number. So even then, you're talking about maybe a 5 DPS chain difference between, which sounds like a small number. In the long term, at the end of the fight, could wind up being, a whole minute if everybody's on a 5 different DPS increase. But those kind of nerds for raids, doing those kind of 20-minute, 30-minute fights, they'll be into those numbers anyway. So.
But why would we have weapon skins when we can actually make them use different things?
Well, so weapon skins are definitely going to be there, right? But
yeah.
There are players who are going to want to level up all weapons. All weapons. And
so you have to have skills to use these weapons is the point of this lust. Like, you don't just pick up a weapon and know how to use it. You have to level being able to use it.
So you could definitely use a skin over your weapon. And that's one way to go about it. Role players will definitely do that kind of stuff because they're not going to go out and do all this stuff. But let's say
Mm-hmm.
there's a sword out there that's got a badass little passive on it or some shit, raid level, and a player really wants to use it, but they don't have the proficiency to use that sword. They're going to want to level up their sword capability, so they're going to utilize swords. The most efficient way to level up that sword is to use abilities that would use that sword in a melee situation as opposed to casting through it. You will be able to cast through it as a cleric, but you're not going to level it up as fast because you're not using it the way it's intended to be used. So it's taking you longer to figure out how to use it. Those are the types of things you're gonna see in the game. The efficiency being able to take all of that and use any weapon essentially any way you want, using it the correct way by the correct classes gets the absolute most out of it with passives and other things, buffs and whatnot that'll be able to increase that. So you can do whatever you want, but you will only be fantastic with the items recommended for your class. I think that's essentially. I don't want to say yes to that because you'll be
I say
fantastic with a wide variety of items.
you'll be fantastic with the items you work on, is what it's supposed to be.
So,
Because once you become more proficient with it, the weapon is more efficient at what it does.
like the rogues, for instance. Let's.
Now, that doesn't mean every weapon, because that's just not plausible, but you'll be able to use most of them.
Well, let's go. Did we release a thief or assassin yet? I'm sure we did.
Yes,
Yes,
we
we did.
did.
Okay, so the assassin, their most effective weapons are dual wielding daggers. Now, will they push more DPS outside of dual wielding daggers? No. If you take the same exact player, and that's the only individual you're judging, you're not comparing different players, that one player will get the most DPS out of dual wielding daggers. What's the difference? Well, the difference, let's say they pick up two swords. You're going to have a 1 to 2% difference in total numbers at the end of a fight. 1 to 2% is not something that a raid's going to make somebody go and burn over. Again, our mechanics aren't DPS race mechanics, right? Our mechanics are think intelligently through the fight, approach the scenario the way it needs to be approached, kill what you need to kill, move on from there. So there's not a huge push to have only the best of the best out there. There's going to be scenarios where people are going to pick up two swords as assassins because of a perk on the swords as opposed to the daggers. Or maybe they found two swords or maybe a dagger and a sword. And that says daggers. What that really means is smaller weapons, dagger-like, not specifically daggers. So if they pick up two rapiers, they'll be able to use a rapier, stuff like that. Ideally, the assassin will be fantastic with any weapon that you can dual wield. Any weapon that you can dual wield, especially of melee caliber. Range, they'll lose a little bit for having range. So if they pick up two pistols, you can dual wield pistols, and they go range, and they use all these ranged abilities, then there will be, there will be another loss for that on top of the fact that it's not the small weapon class like the daggers. If that answers that question. So they're going to be fantastic with a lot of different weapons. Are they going to be the best of the best of the best with a lot of different weapons? No, they're going to be best of the best of the best with only one, though. Sorry.
But the difference is meant to be so negligible that you don't have to use the best of the best of the best, because the whole game is challenges everything. You take the player, not the number they do for damage. Is like the whole problem with the rating. You take people based on their gear and everything, and like, while that is a very slight factor, you take the person that understands their class and knows how to do the mechanics while doing DPS. Because who cares what stats they have if they're dead? Dead DPS is no DPS. And like, that's what this is really supposed to focus on. If you put in the work and effort, you can play with dual swords on an assassin. And if you're a good player, you'll still be able to raid because you can do the mechanics, not the number. But you have to level those swords. You're not just going to pick up a fucking stick, have nothing leveled in like clubs, and then go be good with it.
Right. So when it comes down to it, this is really something that I feel everybody should have an opinion on. We are creating a players union. Neck Rage presented the idea. It's something we've been talking about for probably just as long as this, maybe just a touch longer. Trying to figure out how we wanted to go about it, how risky a players union would be to manage, to take care of, to make sure that it's fully functional, all that stuff. When it comes down to the major vote, this would be one of the items where it really comes down to the founders and the players union will take the majority vote on these things. Only because, honestly, the majority of votes, I can tell you right now, that are going to be for keep it at attack are simply going to be people who don't want to have to understand something else. And I absolutely feel that it's a huge thing for me as well. Okay. Absolutely understand that. Not wanting change should not be a reason not to have change. At the same time, changing things for the sake of changing them should not be a reason to change. So it's something that's got to be well thought out, something that's got to be well considered, something that I definitely want to hear from you guys about. We'll set up the forums. We'll get everybody talking about it. And I'd rather see some intellectual conversation on this instead of, I know a lot of people are going to get a little emotional about this in time. I don't want to see that. I can't restrict people from their emotions, but do try to remain civil. Don't be that person calling people a noob or an idiot because they don't want to learn, and don't be the guy closed-minded simply because you don't want to learn. So
exactly, Myth. Like, they lose something to gain something else. It's not all about the damage.
That's a great question. Mist Seamaster says, so an assassin that wields dual pistols might lose damage over dual daggers, but could gain survivability in its place. Not necessarily. Our game, unlike others, we have a very, very balanced weight on ranged AoEs and ranged damage compared to melee AoEs and melee damage going out to the players. You're not going to get any special treatment just because you're ranged, okay? Don't expect that from this game at all. On top of that, a lot of the tanks are going to have internal buffs tied onto their class stuff that are going to help out the melee. So it's a balanced system so that everybody doesn't go melee, but so that melee don't get pounded in this game like they have every other one for the last 10 years, 12 years. So if you feel it's easier to avoid damage at range, then yeah, absolutely. And that's more of a psychological thing, more of a skill-based thing than it is something we're designing. But we have raids where the ranged are getting targeted specifically over the melee. So have fun with that. Knight's made it! He's at a party or a show right now, actually listening to some rock music. I don't even know if he can hear us right now.
Probably not.
Probably not. Yes. The skills will adjust with the weapons you've got. All right? The skills are going to innately adjust. Oh.
Red. Wife, like, I would have left her ass.
Damn. That's why I don't take wives to concerts, because wives. It's cold outside, too, man. That's all you need to say no. I actually know wives that don't take husbands to concerts because they're pussies. So
it goes both ways.
The ability, the global abilities, will adapt to the people using them, the classes using them, I should say. An assassin using a backstab, which is a DPS, will get the full value out of that ability versus a bard using a backstab, which is not a DPS. So there's going to be adjustments there as well as weapon adjustments. And all of that will happen innately. And these are things that are going to show up on the weapon based on what you're wearing and what your class is and stuff like that. As you change out your gear, you're going to notice a little bit more survivability and a little bit less effectiveness on your abilities. So things are going to change innately based on the type of things you're holding. And so you get to see before you get into the fight how you're going to perform on a snapshot level, how your abilities are going to perform. After that, it's really up to you. It doesn't matter what you're holding or whatnot. You should be able to go in with the least effective weapons maybe not a blocking tank. They'll be able to block, but not for full value. You should be able to go in with the least effective weapons and the least effective armor as far as roll effectiveness goes, and still beat a raid if you've got the skill. And that's all dependent on the skill. So, all right.
Thank you, Doge.
If you guys have got more questions about this, by all means, ask them. I'm going to move on to a quick review of IR21. That's what I wanted this up for. While you get over to your questions, I'm going to get this going. Add.
That's pretty much what this conversation was about, Knights, was that way you're not constantly looking for the next golden stick that has a higher number on it.
Yeah, we don't want this to be a gear treadmill where you're constantly just cycling out gear. It's one of the reasons we've got so many algorithms and logarithms dedicated towards player skill, because it's you're not going to enjoy the game if all you're after is loot. Because once you get the best loot, if that's possible, you're going to be bored as shit. But if you're constantly capable of improving or taking on more challenging shit and seeing what you can survive and then improving from there, that's a whole nother game altogether. That's a game where a lot of players are going to be constantly thriving to get that next piece. Even though other players have already got it, they still don't have. By next piece, I mean that next piece of progression. Not next piece of gear. Gear is important. Don't get me wrong. It helps you enhance your character, but it should not be the identifying factor of a
It shouldn't be the focus of the game either. And that's what a lot of things have turned into, is gotta get that next purple. All about them purples. I mean, that's boring. So
you will want a lot of the gear that's out there. Don't get me wrong. It's just not going to be oh shit, I can't do XX raid because I don't have the best in slot stuff prior to that raid. Not how we're working. All right, so IR22. I'm actually going backwards on this because quicker. Rathar, God of Death.
And it's IR21. He lied.
21. Sorry, I don't know why I said 22. I'm looking at it right here.
I don't know. It says 21 on everything we have.
I know. I don't know. All right, so Rathar, God of Death, devious looking bastard. Obviously, exactly what you would expect from the God of Death. A lot of grossness, disgustingness. This is what I like to call the Green Band version of him as well. When he gets summoned into the real world, when you fight him during the raid scenarios, it's going to be a lot worse than that. Don't let your kids watch. And for crying out loud, if I rate the shit R, don't let your damn kids watch.
Don't take it to the Deadpool movie. Oh, wait.
Don't make me get Ryan Reynolds on this shit, because I will. So basic overview, description, Rathar, God of Death, not... he's got to have followers, worship his power. It's the whole point of this game. So he threatens with death, and that's his hold over a lot of people, is the threat of death, as opposed to just merely killing people and then having a necromancer army.
He's also not he's not the Grim Reaper, not to get that confused.
Right. No, fuck the Grim Reaper. He'll beat the Grim Reaper's ass. So you can check out more information about Rathar on the website. We created a pretty interesting backstory for him here. I don't remember much of it, even though I did write some of it. But yeah. Interaction with followers. Rathar enjoys spreading death. However, he realizes that it would not be wise to kill many of his own followers, who are the source of his power. Just said that. He therefore prefers to instill fear and madness in those followers. Since spreading madness is one of the goals of Khaldum, Rathar allows his own followers to be targeted by Khaldum and then molds that madness to his purposes. These motherfuckers are fucked up in Tenebris, dude. These followers are then encouraged to spread death among the followers of the deities and other legions. Ugh.
Fucking spies, man.
That shit's just dark, man. dark. All right. While killing one of his own followers is rare, and most of those sacrificed are war captives, there is one time each year when a ritual sacrifice of his own followers occurs. What the fuck are you doing, Rathar? A single male follower and a single female follower, chosen from among volunteers, strip off their clothing and perform a mating ritual. This was written by Dr. Lore, dude.
Yeah, this is written by Lore. You can already tell.
Perform a mating ritual on the high altar of Rathar in a public ceremony. And we do screen all this, guys. I was about to say this is the first time I'm reading it. That would be a lie. This is the first time that I'm reading it thoroughly. So after they mate, Rathar accelerates the cycle of pregnancy, and the mother gives birth within the hour. Once the child is born, the parents are flayed alive by the priests and priestesses of the temple, who then proceed to cut their throats and drink their blood. Holy fuck, Rathar. What the hell, dude? The children born of these rituals are raised in the temples and become the next generation of priests and priestesses of Rathar. Those who are killed in the rituals know what is to happen, but see it as a great honor and believe they will have a higher place in the afterlife as a result. Oh my goodness.
No, that's like, fucking Sunday night dinner topics right there.
All right, so our lore master has absolutely no boundaries, so go enjoy some of his work. I actually enjoy a lot of his work. I don't mean that as in I'm kind of, I guess I'm happy he's on our team. I mean that as in I knew what the hell I was getting when we brought him on. Some of his work seems a little dry, and then you get to the meat and potatoes and realize that it's really just historic, and all historic shit is dry. But once you get to the actual shit, man, holy crap. Fucking Rathar, homie. Rathar, dude, respect. I don't know how you can. I could never convince people to drink poison from a cup. Like, seriously, it's just not. It's not my thing. I say that, and I've convinced like 40 people to volunteer to help me build a game.
He told us to drink the Kool-Aid.
I don't know what he's talking about. All right. So the Dark Elf is next. Dark Elf is typical Dark Elf. We wanted to make sure that there was a difference here. We didn't just want, Dark Elves living in the underground or in the void of space or whatever you typically see. There are some changes here made from the mind of Dr. Lore. Specifically, him and I had a huge conversation about the Dark Elves and what they're going for. So they are a military power. They're not inherently evil, right? We're not trying to pose any of these races as good or evil. We're simply trying to show you who these races are within themselves. And the Dark Elves, they don't just embrace the darkness, but they worship shadow. They utilize shadow. They study the darkness that is within the shadow. There's more to the shadow than just the shadow for them. And it's something that's very important to their culture as well as their military style. They have the most disciplined military on this portion of Estremere. I say this portion of Estremere because I don't know if they've got the most disciplined military among the world. We haven't breached out that far yet, so I can't tell you. We are like writers writing a book here, okay? You can't ask us those kind of questions yet because we don't really know. One of the things that they do is they instill their discipline in any military that will allow them to do so. And it's kind of their way of imparting a piece of their culture into other cultures and their little secret cultural genocide by taking over through discipline. Again, not an evil thing, just something that they feel more comfortable if the world were disciplined as them, as opposed to just a bunch of chaoticness running around. And you can see by Rathar that there's going to be a lot of chaos running around. So I think if Rathar is anything to take note of in the Tenebrous Legion, chaos is something that's going to need to... Yeah, and they stray from the usual fantasy-based lore, so...
they're not
get on
your usual tunnel-dwelling fucking rejects of the world, like most people turn them into.
Yeah, no, these guys are definitely a part of all societies, all right? They are heavily embedded in all of all of the society around them. So, okay, so this is a big one. Crafting system. Crafting system. So, for us, crafting has been one of them things that's it's been considered a secondary system for the last, I don't know, 14 years or so in a video game. It may well have started that way. I don't really know. I haven't gone that far
I have
back.
no clue.
What's that?
I said I have no clue. I keep
Yeah.
hearing myself through it, so that's why I'm trying not to talk.
As we look at certain games, though, we see that crafting has a huge part in games. Minecraft, crafting is huge in that. EverQuest, crafting is huge in that. There are a ton of games where you cannot progress. Oh, I lost you, Check. You there? Check, no! There he is.
I fixed it. My bad.
All right. Did you fat finger that?
No, my computer started closing my browser.
Oh, yes, awesome. All right, so crafting. We wanted this to be as important as PvE and PvP. We didn't want it to be a secondary system to either of those. We wanted this to be its own system. So we created it as though it was its own system. So crafting, just like PvP and PvE, has its own progression system. And this is the initial progression outline. Again, things like this, certain details in here could change. The first one we had, we didn't like. We've changed it to this since then. We might change it depending on feedback. Unsure if we might even come up with a better way to do crafting. Fashionably late. We might even come up with a better way to do crafting progression and make the change ourselves. We don't know. So, getting an echo. Am I loud on your end? Do you need to turn it down?
I still have you way turned down. I hear myself through your headset, but
so it's an echo. Hold on.
like when I talk, I hear myself back through your mic on check. But how? Like I hear myself through his headset. I don't even understand.
You shouldn't be able to hear him now.
But check will forever be loud and canny. There's absolutely no way for us to fix that. I am at a fucking volume of 2 right now. 2.
All right. I'm not seeing any feedback happening anymore, but it could be wrong. All right, so progression in crafting literally happens the exact same way. So tiers 1 through 5 are your solo stuff, right? You'll be doing different tasks, creating different items. This isn't if you'll notice here, we didn't do a create 1,000 items in order to get the experience needed for the next level. We wanted to stay away from that because that's fucking boring. And you could just create a damn a third-party process to do it for you.
You make a bot do that. So
tiers 6 through 15. This is where it starts to get a little more so. So in crafting, again, it does. The crafting again, just like with player versus environment, player versus player, if a single player wants to create multiple characters in order to level up their or tier through their crafting, then they can. That's fine. That's how they want to do it. In PvE, it's simply just a player has the skill to go through those tiers by themselves. My son, I don't know if y'all can hear that. That's just some weird noises. So, as you go through each tier, after tier 6 or after tier 5, tier 6 through 15, you're going to require a few more items from different players. And then tier 16, this starts... we did put a little bit of an emphasis here on the blended raids, as you can see right here. The crafters will have to actually participate in a few blended raids per tier, which if you want to be the master, you got to have the balls to go everywhere. Keep in mind, blended rays doesn't mean that they have to pick up weapons and start PvEing. It just means that they have to perform a certain crafting profession in crunch time, and that's really what it comes down to. PvPers and PvEers have crunch time. Crafters, we wanted to give them a little bit of crunch time. So,
Literally nothing's
not
changed.
Much anyway. It might be because he's got to come through my TV in order for you guys to hear him right now. Something we got to figure out. When I'm talking, if he talks, you might hear that double feed because my mic's open at that point. I guess my mic's open anyway. This isn't TeamSpeak where it just opens while I'm talking.
Yeah, that's it. Pretty much, it's if I make a sound, you hear him loop through mine back into his because I'm going through his TV right now. Just say like, I can't fix that.
Down, but
Fucking, I'm gonna just start breaking things.
All right. So what else about crafting? So in crafting, harvesting is not directly related to crafting. Players like myself are going to be excited about this. I'm probably not going to do too much crafting, honestly, but I will do when I don't have any quests that I could do. When all my friends are offline. I keep saying boys, homies, friends, whatever. Fuck.
Holla at you, boys.
When my raid's offline, when I've got nothing else to do, I like to go out and harvest. Or if I'm, excessively frustrated about something, I like to go out and harvest. Harvesting in and of itself is its own mini game, right? It's not directly associated with crafting. But having that access to higher tiers in crafting will allow you access to crafting quests that will allow you to get bonuses during harvesting. Longer response times, better items to respond with QTEs for, the chance to increase the material gain by X% or so, I don't know. Probably not that one because that's more RNG.
That's more RNG.
Stick away from RNG as much as possible. We do have a document literally called The Death of RNG. So, crafting lines. So, here's our crafting lines. The weaponsmith and armorsmith are actually two after a company meeting that we are going to rename. And I'll tell you why specifically. The weaponsmith deals in small, intricate metals. The armorsmith deals in bigger metals, right? The shields, the bulkier items. But they also deal with, right now, they're dealing with being armorsmith's chainmail. But chainmail is made up of a lot of small, intricate links. So it doesn't make sense. So what we're trying to do instead is just alter the way that the two crafts work. Change the name, alter some minor details so that they do work. Instead of just trying to force it and say, it fucking works. We want to come up with a...
Yes, it works because magic.
Right. You should ever fucking hear us say, magic, as a reason why something works. We're not interested in the quick fix. We're interested in a real fix. Queen of the Aether. Right? So, Hidika's going to be... Fucking steal. I turned my damn TV down so I can't even hear you. Hold on.
Can't even hear who.
You. All right.
Oh, sorry.
It's not your fault. I love you, Steel. Hudika's going to be the go-to craft or gatherer, by the way. Anytime you need something, everybody send Hudika a message. Just let us know what your character name's going to be, or I'm going to find your account and rename all of your characters to Hudika anyways. So, I'm just kidding. That would be way too much work for me, and...
He'd make someone else do it, so it's okay.
I probably would.
Continue, Lay.
I'm just reading. All right, so weaponsmith, armorsmith. Expect some changes to come down the pipe for those two as far as name goes, mostly. Tailor. So the tailor, your obvious tailor, deals with hides and cloths. Crave is working on potentially having me split these two up. I don't want to. I guess that could be a point of conversation among the community. He might be over it by now. I don't really know, but
Yes, he has mentioned it in a little bit. I don't know if he's still all strung up about that or not?
Arcanist will work with magical properties, artifacts, orbs. So these are offhand items, stuff that your ranged type classes will hold in their secondary hand if they're not holding a two-handed weapon. Um, he's always
Everything's a
still a
possibility
possibility.
with me.
Okay, alchemist. You know what an alchemist is. While potions don't have a huge, like it's not the absolute role of the game, utilizing potions will provide benefits. Obviously, we're thinking more along the lines of the older school games like EQ1, EQ2, Final Fantasy, stuff like that, where you can create potions that'll give you temporary small buffs like a damage shield, or increase your regeneration rate by 2 or 3%, or some minor stuff that players can actually get out of it. Jeweler, clearly here, makes jewelry. Carpenter, this one is going to up front look like one of the most valuable ones. Bows, arrows, staves, and then lock boxes and houses, stuff like that. And then the chef will create food items. Food items are going to be things that you're going to need to have natural HP combat endurance regeneration and primary resource regeneration, or something like that. I'm not too sure. Don't quote me on that just yet. We might find another way to implement that. But food items for both in and out of combat.
And unless Slave's been trolling me again and changed his idea again, the sockets we talk about all the time that go in your gear and like weapons and stuff is going to be made by the crafting profession that makes that kind of item.
Right. So if you've got a weapon, a dagger rather, and it's got sockets on it, and you want to fill those sockets, you can go directly to a weaponsmith to make those socket items for you. So that'll be how that works. A few things here. We actually made that change because specifically here, so the carpenter being able to make houses is going to be huge. Freaking hair. Cat hair.
And like to add on that, we haven't talked about housing much. You will have to have a player carpenter make your house. You're not going to just be like talk to an NPC or something to do that. Oh, yeah. So right now, carpenter seems to have.
You absolutely can. If you want to go all for it. So Knight wants to do a BDSM basement in his house. Go for it, dude. I'll get into the house creation in a second because it's actually pretty good. It is going to be a different document, a different release, but I will touch on it initially here. But because the carpenter makes the houses, we felt it was important to give everybody the capability to create something that's going to be market worthy. And socket slots are always going to be a huge thing for players. Players are constantly going to be finding new pieces of gear or wanting to change out sockets or whatever the case may be to try out new builds and all kinds of stuff.
Sockets aren't like your regular generic gem. Sockets still, it's like sockets with like fucking air quotes. Like that's not their stay home name. We're still trying to figure out a fucking name for them. But like they are your bread and butter as deciding what your gear actually does. Like they have probably the biggest impact, especially once you get to higher tiers and you can have so many sockets. So,
all right,
or bigger sockets. Knight's getting all crazy up in here.
Yeah, because where Knight's going, Knight Moonguard, dear God, why? And on his erotic roleplay, real quick bit on houses. So let's say you step into a community. You don't want to plot on your guild's plot, so you just go to a general community. And you see let's say there's 8 plots of land open, right? 4 of them are next to each other, and you want a really big fucking plot of land. So you purchase all 4 plots of land through the community manager. And that plot of land allows you to do whatever the hell you want. Now those 4 they're still 4, but you can use them as though they're 1. You can literally build a giant freaking mansion that goes on across all 4. So what happens at that point, in the case of any taxes, for those of you wondering, well, what about tax? What if I don't pay taxes on one plot of land? Your whole fucking thing, because it's all permanently connected, is now one tax bracket. So deal with that shit. But you want to build this mansion. You can't just go anywhere and buy the mansion. Well, you can go to the auction house and buy a mansion if you wanted to. It could be a generic one that some crafters made and just put out there. Or because you're like Knight and you've got a very specific outline for where you want rooms and how many levels you want and all this shit. Instead, you engage with the crafter, and the crafter opens up their table, and they begin to start playing with blueprints. You, as the purchaser, can co-commission with this, and you jump into that blueprint design with them, and you two can now move around the blueprint design in order to design this house until you have it the way you want it exactly. And once it's ready, then the crafter starts getting to work. Then they start building and the more stuff you've got, the higher tier it is, which means the better the crafter's got to be. And the crafters can absolutely fuck up houses. So be ready for that shit. You're going to see some ugly ass motherfucking houses out there that are like lopsided and shit because the crafters did a critical fail every damn step or something. So Knight's blueprint is going to be hellacious. But that's a really quick bit on how the housing creation system is going to work. It's something we didn't want to be some generic ass system where everybody's got the same exact houses and the only difference is how you decorate it. We wanted it to be something a lot more than that, something a lot more involved than that. Like we said, we don't want crafting to be a mini game outside of PvE and PvP. We want it to be its own creature and its own thing. So it felt natural to do this with the housing system. Okay. That actually comes a little bit into interactive crafting. So interactive crafting talks about utilizing QTEs or quick time events during your crafting phase. Each phase is going to have their own type of QTEs. Harvesting's got quick time events that will, let's say we do 3 potential gathers per node, right? Each gather will have its own QTE. And you can fail or critically succeed on all of them, all 3 of them. And that would net you better rewards, obviously. When it comes down to the crafting, same process here. The more complex the recipe, the more QTEs involved. Some crafting recipes might take you up to 5-10 minutes to complete. Let's talk about Knight's whole deal here, right? Creating something as complex as a giant house will likely take 20 minutes to do the entire thing. I mean, the crafters are going to have to be dedicated. They're going to have to understand the time required to perform every craft. They're going to need to have the patience to make it through each one. Some of them are going to play the risk-reward game where they'll just say, I don't need this one over here. I'm just going to, every third one I'm going to skip, and if I crit on the other 2, I'll be fine. You're going to want to know who the fuck your crafters are when it comes to making a lot of your really good items.
You know if they're cheap or not.
Yep. Are they?
Pretty much all it is. You learn who the good contractors are.
Absolutely. And that makes crafting its own system. Just in and of itself, that right there makes crafting its own system. Something where players don't ever have to touch PvP or PvE. They can just do crafting and have a completely full and engaging game. So they do crafting. On top of that, they're also a player merchant. I mean, you're essentially talking about a player who's taking the role of an NPC at this point and giving the world more life. Again, we're not a full sandbox game, but we wanted to provide certain elements that allow players to get that some of those sandbox feels, and this was a huge one for us. Later, Hudika.
Our German friends.
Yep. We'll be out in a minute anyway, so. The last bit here, crafter interdependency. This is something huge. I touched on it during the crafter progression. Let's go back here real quick and let's talk about, okay, so the carpenter. The carpenter, let's say he builds Knight's house and he wants a mix of wood and brick and metal. We're going to have to figure out how we're going to do brick. We haven't thought about that yet. We have not even remotely begun to put all the recipes down, okay?
No.
So, but to build that house, he's going to need a lot of the components, right? So the screws, he's going to have to get the screws from your weaponsmiths up here who deal with small metal items. Bolts, same thing. Any hinges, anything like that. The glass frame, whoever we wind up having build glass, stuff like that. These seem like a pain in the ass kind of concept, but in the reality, it comes down to If you allow a crafter to simply just gather the things only they would need to craft, then you wind up with items that are either made by shit they don't know how to make, and then you have to explain that to everybody, or you wind up with a complex crafting system where even making a wooden lockbox requires metal hinges and screws, which means he's got to get those from different crafters, stuff like that. If it's a gem inlaid satchel that the tailor wants to make, he's got to get the gem from the jeweler. It's that inner dependability that we're really pushing for from way back in the day. And I know this is an old school idea and an old school thing.
By yourself.
What's that?
That says to make it so people never do things by themselves, because that's not what an MMO is. It's for playing with other people. Some gem gags. I need to stop reading chat.
Fucking night, man. Jesus. He must be drinking a little bit too, huh?
I'm assuming he went and got some Chinese and some beer or something. Damn.
Alcohol. I'm about to go get me some pizza and a beer, as a matter of fact. But enough of that. All right. So, if anybody's got any questions on this stuff, other than Night and Steel going on about sex
weird house
and shit. God. Winchester Mystery House. These motherfuckers. No, you're fine, dude. Talk about whatever the hell you want to talk about. I don't even care.
I'm personally going for the Barbie's beach house feel. So
honestly, I'm buying a blueprint off the marketplace, and I'm just gonna put a fucking house up. I don't even care. Honestly.
Yeah, that's probably all I'll do too. I really don't care past that. But
oh shit. Finally Friday. Mine's ERP free. Unless you let Night in there. Let me tell you, you don't have to have the props. Night's going to make it sexual, okay? I'm pretty sure we covered everything.
Yeah, I think we're done.
Even the alcohol and the sex. So, there's that. Thank you for coming. There are links below. Head over to Facebook. Oh, shit. Wait the fuck a minute. How did I not have this on the damn sheet?
What did you forget now?
For those of you that are not paying attention, like me, we have a date for our Kickstarter. And that is March 16th. So, tell your friends, tell your friends' friends, tell your mother, your father, tell your dogs, your cats, goldfish. I don't care who the hell you tell.
The hobo down the street in the box. Tell him.
March 16th, Kickstarter. You want to know more about that Kickstarter? Ask questions. I'll gather some questions over the next 2 weeks for the next podcast, and we can actually have a podcast dedicated to outlining the Kickstarter and the rewards and whatnot. Steel Deal, I know during his Sacrament weeklies for the next week or two, they're going to be covering some items for the Kickstarter, so be sure to head over to the... Do we have... Oh, that's something I need to work on. All right, so we need to put the YouTube link on this page as well.
The YouTube link was on this page.
Is it on the page still?
It was. It's not... Yeah, it's not here anymore.
All right.
There was a YouTube link.
So add YouTube link. All right, that's easy to do. So, yeah. Head over to Facebook, like our page.
Tell everybody.
You'd have found out about the Kickstarter from there. Head over to Twitter. You'd have found out about the Kickstarter from there if you were following us. Over to our website and our forums. I don't know if
it's not on the forum, so you would not have found it out there.
Nope. I got to get on my forum manager about that. We'll get that fixed. If you've got any talents that you'd like to share with us, head on over to the volunteer forum. We've got a lot of developers coming through recently. We've actually quadrupled our development number right now. So it's moving along at a much faster rate than it was before, which is very exciting for me because that means soon I'll be able to run around in the world butt naked, slapping Crave with a two-piece.
But I do that now.
And then on the website, I put Friday. I don't know why I put Friday. It's Thursday.
Yeah, it's not Friday.
On the YouTube page, on top of any other items that we've got on there, you'll be able to see Sacrament Weekly and Sacrament. I don't know what the Thursday one's called. Powerhouse? Or, I don't know.
I thought they were both Sacrament Weekly.
I did
That's my
too, but
mistake.
he called it something else in an email, so it's not.
I don't read them.
Tuesdays and Thursdays on the YouTube
Tuesdays and
page.
Thursdays, just look at YouTube. They're there.
YouTube Sacrament Weekly. Again, if you're on Facebook or Twitter, it gets posted there when they launch, when they go live. So check us out on both those places. Yeah, still, we need to have a conversation about the forums after this as well. Not because you need to do anything on the forums, but because we need to get something set up on the forum. So, okay, but what's the Thursday one?
Yeah, well, that's the question was
In
in
depth.
depth. Wait,
All right. I'm not saying the weekday names. We're just gonna call that Sacrament Weekly.
Sacrament Weekly. Yeah.
Wait, we're gonna call that Sacrament Weekly and Sacrament In Depth. I don't know.
How
Sacrament
about we
Weekly,
just call it
Tuesday and
Sacrament
Thursday.
Weekly?
Go to the YouTube page and check them out. They're actually pretty good. They had me entertained. I know the first one had me I don't know, they had me yelling or some shit at Check or something. I don't remember. If you haven't
Wait,
seen them, Check,
I've
shame on
watched
you, man.
it.
Shame on you.
I haven't. You're
I
yelling
can
at me?
tell by that look on your face that you haven't seen them yet. So,
No, I've pretty flat said I haven't seen them. I haven't watched them. I don't ever go on YouTube, so
Check.
I don't watch our fucking podcast either. So there's that.
Well, I mean, you're a part of this. Why would you watch this? Weirdo.
For inspiration, because we're so good.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming by. I love your faces. I hope you don't hang check or anything.